The spring 2022 meeting of the Presbytery of West Virginia will be held at Beckley Presbyterian Church on Thursday, May 19th. For those unable to join in person, but who would like to watch the meeting, it will be live streamed on the Presbytery's Facebook page. The information on how to join will be sent by email on May 18th. Please note that you do not need to have a Facebook account to watch, and that you will only be able to watch, not participate with those at the meeting. In this video, you'll hear an overview orientation to the work we'll be about as we gather on the 19th. I'm Susan Sharp Campbell, Associate for Educational Ministry, and I hope this video will be helpful as you prepare for the meeting. I'll be highlighting the reports that can be found in the advance packet that was sent in an email blast on May 9th, or can be found at www.wvpresbytery.org. Those attending the meeting will need to download the packet to a device they can access during the meeting without the use of Wi-Fi, as it will be unavailable. Printed packets will only be available for those who request them from the Presbytery office at 304-744-7634 or office at wvpresbytery.org no later than Monday, May 16th. I would encourage you to pause the video at this point and go ahead and download the packet so that you can follow along as I walk through it. If you've not yet registered but are planning to attend, you may register the morning of the meeting, though you will need to provide for your own lunch. Now for your homework. Please read the advance packet in its entirety before May 19th. However, this is not the time to make up your mind as to how you plan to vote on the various items. Please come with an educated yet open mind, as we believe that when we gather in councils such as Presbytery, the Spirit of God moves in our midst, guiding us in making decisions together as we hear the voices of one another. Also, please note that this video is not intended to take the place of reading the packet before the meeting. At each Presbytery meeting, we have the opportunity to engage in mission by assisting the host church in its mission. For this meeting, you may want to pick up some cleaning supplies, such as a bottle of Pine Sol or Lysol spray for people moving out of temporary housing. On the 19th, upon arrival at the church, look for the parking attendants who will direct you to one of the two parking lots. One is behind the City National Bank building. The other is a West Virginia Tech lot off of South Kanawha Street. Registration will take place in the Witherspoon room of the church. It can be found on the left after entering the main doors on South Kanawha Street. There you will receive your name tag, and if you've ordered lunch, pay for your lunch. Refreshments will be available until 10 a.m. in the downstairs fellowship hall. At 10 a.m., moderator David Lee, pastor of Marlinton Presbyterian Church, will call the meeting to order. He will then call upon Monty Mitchell, pastor of Beckley Presbyterian Church, to bring greetings and to give us essential information about the facilities before we move into the business of the meeting. Maureen Wright, stated clerk of the Presbytery, will introduce new minister member Elizabeth Lewis, who's begun serving as pastor of the Glenville Presbyterian Church. You will find her autobiographical statement and statement of faith in an email that was sent on May 16th with this video. Ruling elders who are attending a Presbytery meeting for the first time as the commissioner from their church will then be recognized. Following introductions, the stated clerk will declare if a quorum is present. A quorum for this meeting is 15% of minister members, or 17, and 15% of the churches represented by a ruling elder commissioner, or 18. Once a quorum's been established, the consent agenda will be considered. Items on the consent agenda will be taken up together in one recommendation, as these are items that those planning the meeting didn't anticipate would generate a need for discussion. However, if there's an item on the consent agenda that you wish to hear more about or discuss, anyone who has voice or vote may ask that that item be removed from the consent agenda, and it will be taken up later in the meeting under the committee report. Items on the consent agenda for this meeting include requests for excused absences, that the offering be given to Presbyterian disaster assistance for the Ukraine, and that a ruling elder be reauthorized to preside at communion in his church of membership. Temporary clerks who will distribute any needed materials during the meeting and count any votes other than voice votes will be appointed by the moderator. The moderator will also appoint members of the leadership team to serve as the committee on bills and overtures. This group will review any new business and bring recommendations to the body. If you wish to submit an item of new business to be considered at this meeting, please be aware that the deadline for submitting it in writing to the stated clerk is before the lunch break at 12:30 p.m. You'll see an asterisk by several items in the docket. These indicate an order of the day, which means that at that time we will move to that item, even if doing so means we'll need to go back to an item under consideration at a later time. At this point in the day, we will move to our education focus, which will be on the proposal to sell the Presbytery building. Those present will be split into smaller groups with a facilitator from the leadership team or the Financial Sustainability Task Force who will be sharing information, so that all will have the same information when we consider this item of business in the afternoon. Please note that these small group times are not intended to be a time of debate, but a time for sharing information. Discussion and debate will take place later in the afternoon. Following the educational focus, we will gather back in the sanctuary for an announcement by the Relations Committee as they seek to contact sessions and clerks of sessions. We'll then move into a time of worship. You'll find the worship bulletin following the committee reports on pages 59 to 61. If you wish to have a printed copy of this bulletin, please print these pages and bring them with you. At the bottom of page 61, you'll find the names of those leading worship. Following worship, we will adjourn to lunch downstairs after a time of grace. After lunch, we will begin again with prayer as we regather to continue with the business of the Presbytery. The stated clerk's report is first. You'll find her written report on pages 4 through 7. The recommendation regarding excused absences will likely have been taken care of with the consent agenda. Included in her written report is information on correspondence that she has received and referred, the statistical report for the Presbytery, similar to what sessions prepare each year, and notification that the minutes of the Presbytery have been reviewed by the Senate, again similar to session minutes being reviewed by the Presbytery, and these were approved without exception. On page 6 in the advanced packet, you'll find procedural matters that guide us as we engage in our work together. Section A lifts up principles of parliamentary law. These include courtesy to all, one item at a time, majority rule, respect the rights of the minority, justice for all, and partiality for none, all ways to show respect for one another as we work together. As items are discussed, pro and con speakers will alternate with individuals being asked to identify their position. When one person has spoken on a pending question, all others wishing to speak will be heard before the person has a chance to speak a second time. Notice that it takes special permission for anyone to speak on any same question or issue more than once. Section B contains provisions from the Presbytery's manual that guide us, including who has the ability to speak, that is, voice, and who has the ability to speak and vote. Section C sets forth the procedural rules we follow. These include anyone speaking for any reason needs to go to a microphone, and when called on by the moderator needs to introduce themselves with their name and their church or relationship to the Presbytery. Please don't assume that everyone can hear you from where you sit or that everyone knows who you are. Here you will find that the limitation for debating any motion is 30 minutes per main motion, with each speaker limited to 3 minutes per speech, although this must be approved by 2/3 of those voting on the 19th. As you read the packet, if you see an item you feel called to speak to, I encourage you to write out your remarks so you can stay focused and use your time wisely. Ed Thompson, General Presbyter, will report next. You will find his written reflections and what he's been up to since the February Presbytery meeting on pages 8 to 11. We will then move to reports of the leadership team and Presbytery committees. Please note that these reports typically have 2 sections. The first includes recommendations that the committee is bringing to the Presbytery for a vote. They do not need a second as they are coming from a committee. The second section includes information about the ongoing work of the committee. The leadership team is recommending that the Presbytery sell the Presbytery building. This recommendation can be found on page 12, with the rationale for doing so on pages 14 and 15. Page 13 includes additional information about the ongoing work and focus of the leadership team. Sarah Specht, Program Director for Bluestone Camp and Retreat, will then bring news about the summer's camping program. Over the past several months, on the request of the sessions, the Presbytery has had an administrative commission working with Buffalo Presbyterian Church and one working with Red Sulphur Springs Presbyterian Church to dissolve those churches as Presbyterian churches. At this meeting, we will be hearing the reports of those commissions with the recommendations that both congregations be dissolved, and we will be celebrating their mission and ministry throughout the years. The report and recommendation from the Buffalo Presbyterian Church Administrative Commission, along with a brief history of the church, can be found on pages 16 through 18. Those from the Red Sulphur Springs Presbyterian Church can be found on pages 19 to 21. At this point in the meeting, there will be a time for good news from the pews. This is a time for ruling elder commissioners to share one way in which their congregation is engaged in ministry and mission, with the hope that other congregations might glean ideas to take back to their sessions and congregations. If you or your session's ruling elder commissioner for this meeting and would like to share, please be prepared to do so. And again, remember to direct your remarks to the moderator using the microphone. Please note that this is not meant to be an opportunity to advertise upcoming events. The Committee on Ministry will be commissioning ruling elder Jennifer Anderson as the commission pastor of First Presbyterian Church, Whitesville, and ruling elder Debbie Penn as the commission pastor of Eleanor Presbyterian Church. The committee's written report, found on pages 22 to 28, consists of a number of items of information about the work of the committee. These include the appointment of moderators, liaisons, and mentors, approval of validated ministries of ministers of word and sacrament not serving as parish or congregational pastors, approval of pastor compensation reports, change in the wording of the COM discretionary fund, plans for the small church celebration to be held in Clarksburg on October 1st, reviews of exit interviews and plans for 6-month interviews, approval of covenants and renewal of covenants for commission pastors, lay pastors, and stated supply pastors. Please note that on May 16th, a supplemental packet will be sent in the email with the link to this video. It contains terms of call for Elizabeth Lewis and Glenville Presbyterian Church, along with the statements I mentioned earlier. These were inadvertently left out of the advance packet. The Committee on Representation will be nominating someone to serve on some committee. It does not have a written report. The Nurture Committee will not be presenting an oral report at this meeting. Their report can be found on pages 29 and 30. It contains information about the work of the committee as well as dates of upcoming events. Please note that there are still openings for youth and adults to serve on the Presbytery's Youth Council. Also, while the Presbyterian Youth Triennium was canceled due to COVID, the committee is exploring the possibility of a mini triennium with neighboring presbyteries. The Stewardship Committee report can be found on pages 31 to 48. In addition to information about the review of the Presbytery's 2021 financial records, here you will find financial reports for the Presbytery for the first quarter of 2022, including budget versus actual expenses, and the overall statement of financial position for the Presbytery. Pages 39 to 45 provide information on the benevolence pledge and per capita giving of churches in the Presbytery. You may want to check the information for your church. The financial report for Bluestone Conference Center, followed by that of Friends of Bluestone, can be found on pages 46 to 48. The Vocations Committee report is found on page 49. The first item will most likely have been approved on the consent agenda. The second recommendation recommendation is a proposed manual change, adding to its powers as a commission to take action and reauthorize authorized lay preachers to preside at communion as they provide pulpit supply, and reauthorize ruling elders to preside at communion in their congregations of membership. In addition to what is found in their written report, the committee will also be asking that ruling elders who successfully completed the May 15th training to preside at communion in their congregation of membership be authorized to do so. This list will also be shared in the e-blast on May 16th. Several committees have written reports for information only. These include the Administration, Bluestone, Mission, and Relation Committees. Please don't forget to read through these reports, however. The Administration Committee's report presents the reports of several work groups charged with developing a plan if the Presbytery approves the recommendation to sell the building. Here you'll find the report of work groups on the Presbytery storage area, disposition of property from the building, and remote working. The Bluestone Committee reports dates and costs for summer camp, which will again have a family camp component. The Mission Committee's report provides information on where and how to learn more about Presbyterian disaster assistance work with Ukraine. The Relations Committee highlights their work on strengthening relationships with our congregations and grants to assist with cooperative ministries. At the end of the committee reports, any new business that was given in writing to the stated clerk prior to the lunch break will be brought to the Presbytery. The meeting will adjourn with a charge and benediction by the moderator. Before you leave the meeting, you'll have the opportunity to complete an evaluation form. This will also be emailed following the meeting. Please take the time in one form or another to complete and return that form. Those planning the meetings take your comments seriously as they look to future meetings. And don't forget to turn your name badge holders in as you leave so that we can be good stewards and reuse them. You will find boxes for name tag holders and evaluation forms at various exits. Finally, your day is almost done, with the exception of travel, as you move back toward home. However, please remember that your work continues as you report back to your session what actions have been taken, what you've learned and observed, so that they too may be informed and knowledgeable about the work of the Presbytery. I look forward to seeing you on the 19th.